The narrative is about to change again, folks. And I'm going to tell you why. At the beginning of 2024, people were saying interest rates needed to go higher. I distinctly remember having conversations with people, my clients, the hundreds of comments that I get, where people are saying interest rates needed to go back to double digits. Then people are saying, inflation's probably done, but rates are going to be this high for years. Rates are going to be higher for longer. I'm sure you guys all remember this. Then once we finally started cutting interest rates, people were saying that it was going to take years to get the interest rates down before we're back into the neutral rate territory. People were saying, yeah, we had that 25 basis point cut. We don't know if they're going to cut in the next meeting, maybe the one after that, so on and so forth. Then it became clear that we were going to cut 25 basis points in every single meeting for the next 18 months. And now the current narrative out there is that we need jumbo rate cuts. And we actually just had our first jumbo rate cut last week for 50 basis points. Now, before any of these things actually started happening, I was listening to well-renowned content creators and economists talk about these things and how they could possibly start coming up. But at that time, these were just, fugazi predictions that nobody was taking seriously, and they're getting tons of hate in their comments. And then just a month, 2 months later, these became what was going to happen, and they were no longer a fugazi prediction. So now back to the current day, as we are actually getting these jumbo rate cuts, I'm now hearing these same content creators and economists talking about the fact that we may need to go back down to 0% interest rates. And by the way, the overnight lending rate doesn't actually have to be 0. It just means that the interest rate of the overnight lending rate is going to be at or below the actual rate of inflation. Because if the overnight lending rate is 1.5%, but inflation is 2%, well, then the value of your mortgage balance is eroding faster than the actual amount of interest that you have to pay to have that money. So I'm going to cover a couple of reasons why I think this could actually be a very real scenario. Starting off with the fact that the BOC and the Fed do this every single time. And in fact, I made a video in August of 2023 saying that they would do exactly this. And I'm not smart, I'm not an economist, but I did think that keeping rates at 5% for years and years and years was never going to be a reality. And I was also very vocal about that for a long time, because the Bank of Canada says that the neutral rate, which is the overnight lending rate, which is not restrictive, nor is it stimulative, is somewhere around 2.5%. Yet, if you look at this chart right here, you will see that they kept the overnight lending rate somewhere under 2%, roughly around 1.5%, for over a decade. So apparently somewhere around 1.5% wasn't restrictive or stimulative for the last over 10 years. Now, when the economy is good, they increase rates above the neutral rate to bring down inflation. And when the economy is bad, they lower interest rates below the neutral rate to stimulate the economy. Now, all that being the case, if we need to lower rates to now stimulate the economy, that would mean that rates would likely have to be below the neutral rate, which they are telling us is 2.5%. And even at that, rates are going to be close to 0. But let's just say they're wrong about the current neutral rate, and the neutral rate is 1.5%, like they kept it at for the last 10 years. That means that rates would have to be under 1.5% to actually stimulate the economy, which would then be a negative interest rate environment. And here's the current pickle that the Bank of Canada has right now. So we all know that interest rates take roughly 18 months to 2 years to actually filter through the economy and start feeling the full effects of those rate changes. So although we've actually started cutting rates, we won't feel the effects of those rate cuts until 18 months to 2 years from now. And that being the case, that first rate cut in June of 25 basis points, we wouldn't feel until the beginning to the middle of 2026. We won't feel this 50 basis point cut until April to October of 2026. And although Canada's CPI says we're at 1.6 right now, we've been in month-over-month deflation since about May 2024. And that means that we will be in actual year-over-year deflation by May 2025, which is only about 6 months from now. Which means that these interest rates have to come down fast. And again, if you're in deflation, you probably don't want rates to be neutral. You want them to be in a stimulative environment. So all this being said, I think that the narrative is about to change again. I think larger rate cuts is going to become the norm, and I think it's going to be expected that Bank of Canada just does a large interest rate reduction in every single meeting. And I think it's very possible that the new narrative in the future, in the next couple months, is we need interest rates to go back down to 0. If you want to chat about buying or selling, give me a call. I'm that Agent Kelly. I'm making moves to move you. Peace.